With all the talks about trade and tariffs, I wanted to take a look at some of the criticism about China joining the WTO. Since joining the WTO in 2001, China has been farther opening up its markets to multinational companies, but there is still a ton of criticism about the speed and scope of market access in China. According to an article in the Financial Times, China's inclusion into the WTO has been a boon for many American companies. During the 15-year period when the U.S. exports to China rose by 500%, exports to the rest of the world were up by only 90%. Exports to China are especially important to American farmers. China is their largest overseas market, and since China's WTO accession, the value of U.S. agriculture exports to China has risen by 1,000%. Shipment of American soybeans, for example, rose 13-fold. While it is true that U.S. firms continue to battle against non-tariff barriers and non-transparent government regulatory policies in China, many American companies have done well in that market. Boeing, for example, has over the last 5 years delivered more aircraft in China than in the U.S. The American Chamber of Commerce in China recently reported that nearly 3/4 of their member companies are profitable, the highest proportion in years. Everywhere you go in China, you see Starbucks, McDonald's, KFCs, and people talking on iPhones. If you look at the top 100 American brands, you'll see that almost all of them have a major stake in Chinese markets. The only companies that are on the list that are not present in China are banking and IT companies that have some restrictions on entering the Chinese markets. According to South China Morning Post, mainland Chinese consumers had accounted for about a third of all iPhone users globally, according to research firm Newzoo. It estimated that the mainland had 243 million iPhone users as of July last year, which made up 33% of the worldwide total of 728 million in that period. This is just one example of consumer goods that are accessing the Chinese market and in some cases dominating the market. Another good example is Starbucks, that has almost no competition from local Chinese brands. Reuters recently reported that Starbucks aims to triple China revenue and have 6,000 stores in the country by the end of 2022. From soybean to coffee, the Chinese markets are slowly opening up to multinational corporations, so why is it that other countries are still complaining about their unfair trading practices? If we look at the last 17 years, China has done a lot to accommodate foreign companies at a major loss to its own brands and market dominance. Last year, in May 2017, Chinese President Xi Jinping announced at the Belt and Road Forum for International Cooperation that China will hold the China International Import Expo starting from 2018. This new expo is one more way that China is trying to work with the WTO and other countries to safely open up new markets in China. According to the organizers, the Chinese government sincerely welcomes government officials, business communities, exhibitors, and professional purchasers across the world to participate in the expo and to explore the Chinese market. They would like to work with other countries, regions, and international organizations to make this a world-class expo, providing new channels for countries and regions to do business, strengthen cooperation, and promote common prosperity of the world economy and trade. On top of this new expo that is designed to help international purchasers and businesses access Chinese markets, the government also announced that it would widen market access for foreign investors this year. According to CBS News, China will sharply widen market access for foreign investors this year with a focus on lowering investment barriers for the service sector and relaxing ownership limits in certain sectors. So the question remains, is China keeping its WTO promises? The answer is yes. China understands the importance of international trade and is continuing to open up its markets. Market competition will not only help foreign companies, it will also make Chinese companies more competitive in the international markets. If you don't believe me, that's fair enough. But take it from the former chief of the WTO, Pascal Lamy, who recently said,
China has abided by the commitments it took to join WTO, but China has done only that and not more, which now is starting to become a problem.
He said that China should do more, and I think we all agree China can and will do more, but everything takes time. How much have you accomplished in the last 17 years? China went from a GDP of $1.3 trillion in 2001 to $12.8 trillion in 2017. This is unheard of, and has been largely accomplished by joining the WTO and working within the international rules of the organization. To anyone that thinks China isn't opening up fast enough, we have to remember that Rome wasn't built in a day, and major economic change takes time. Events like the China International Import Expo are all part of the opening up process, and China will continue to relax rules in a safe and structured manner. The last thing we need is an economic collapse that will affect the entire global economy. So what do you think of China's opening up process? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting China content.